A century after the tragic events of Might and Magic Hero 6 that determined the heroic fate of a dynasty, Shades of Darkness recounts in 2 original campaigns pivotal moments in Ashan's darker history that will define the future of a decadent underground people and decide the survival of the dying cult of the Spider Queen. Determine the fates of 2 legendary factions, the Dark Elves of Dungeon and the Necromancers of Necropolis.
Okay, silly voices aside, today we're taking a look at Ubisoft's latest addition to the rather massive Might and Magic Hero 6, which is already available to pre-order via Steam and will no doubt be the talking point amongst fans as the expansion has taken quite a while to surface. We're specifically talking about the Shades of Darkness expansion, which is set to offer a new storyline based on the Dark Elf lineage. Just a bit of backstory, the Might and Magic series started out as an FPS way back in the late 80s and was nurtured by 3DO, but in 2003 Ubisoft bought the rights to the franchise and created their own vision of the game and its universe with the rise of Ashen, which enabled the French-based team Virtuous to keep fans happy by not messing with the established lore, but to create their own mythology in keeping with the rest of the franchise. Shades of Darkness is just one of several expansions which have been expected of the series and continue the turn-based strategic formula fans know and love. Right, that's the backstory. So what about the game itself? Well, having little to no prior knowledge of the Might and Magic universe, it's perhaps difficult to talk about story specifics, but what I can say as a gamer is the fantasy-styled turn-based antics are pretty cool and quite welcoming for newcomers like myself. Having played games like Final Fantasy Tactics, Advance Wars, Vandal Hearts and such like, whilst different, it was easy to get the basics of the gameplay nailed fairly easily. Naturally, the game begins with an opening setting of the scene where the Dark Elves have some tough decisions to make before players embark on the opening tutorial missions. This is actually quite a cool addition because it's not taken for granted that players will be familiar with how the game works. So in this regard, players can begin their adventures with this expansion if they so choose. Playing the game is pretty simple to begin with. In fact, the opening area strips away any of the resource management found in other parts of the game and simply allows players to roam the opening area, taking on enemies and partaking in a few quest objectives. I didn't get too deeply into the story, where no doubt my overpowerful characters would be suitably challenged. So in this regard, the game doesn't throw you in at the deep end and lets players get all comfortable first. Please take a look at the opening 10-minute gameplay video to get a greater idea of how to play the game. Naturally, fans of the series will be chomping at the bit over this latest edition, although why should players not familiar jump in right now? Well, as previously mentioned, the game is pretty easy to get into and works well with keyboard and mouse, or just a mouse. There's not loads of clutter and access to the various menu-based facets is easy enough to navigate. Sure, there's a bit of learning involved, but as proven by myself, with little knowledge one can dive in fairly easily without becoming too embroiled in the lore or politics of the game. As a turn-based strategy game, it's got some depth to it to keep fans on their toes, but also is accessible enough to not become frustrating. Naturally, beyond what I played, no doubt the game's difficulty will ramp up, especially considering this is not the first expansion. Quite frankly, the game and its style is addictive, and whilst perhaps a bit repetitive, does encourage players to invest time in levelling up characters to gain more skills and abilities. The expansion boasts 2 campaigns and a wealth of additions to keep fans sweet and new players equally engaged, as I found the dialogue interesting and well performed, and the graphics fine and dandy. Imagine, as you will, a game of chess, but with excellently animated pieces, and you get an idea of the game. As always, there's a multiplayer component on offer, including a hot seat mode which allows local players the chance to duke it out on one system, and a skirmish mode which players can replay to their heart's content while setting new parameters and trying different tactics. Having spent some time with the game, I can say that I'm eagerly looking forward to Shades of Darkness and all its trimmings, and of course learning more about the Might and Magic universe. The expansion is available to pre-order via Steam and will cost $19.99 in the UK and releases on May the 2nd. Now venture forth with your wallets and prepare for the next fine adventure of Might and Magic Hero 6. I'm Cram, thanks for watching.